I shall return. It's the most famous promise of World War II. American General Douglas MacArthur makes this promise in March of 1942 after successfully escaping from the Philippines. At the MacArthur Memorial, we get a lot of questions about this promise, and so today we're going to take you behind the scenes to explore this topic.
In February of 1942, MacArthur got ordered out of the Philippines. Famous message came through from Roosevelt ordering him to go to Australia. So he and the staff, right here, very famous picture, all of them signed this thing later on. They go down to Mindanao. They take the PT boats from Corregidor down to Mindanao, and there they're going to wait for B-17s to come pick them up. They wait for 3 days until B-17s finally show up. This is a map donated because they were waiting at the old Del Monte plantation. The people that used to run the plantation donated. This shows the old airfields there. So finally B-17s show up, and there everybody gets on these planes, and then they fly down to Australia. This is probably about like flying from New York down to New Orleans. And so it's a very long trip. It takes about 5 hours. And then on March 17th, they land in Australia. Now, on the morning of March 17th, the B-17s land near Darwin. They couldn't land at Darwin because the Japanese were attacking that already. So they landed at this place called Bachelor Field, which is about 50 miles outside of Darwin. Now, Jean MacArthur didn't want to get on a plane anymore. She wanted to get on the train. But they knew the Japanese were going to hit Bachelor Field. So the staff enlists the doctor, Charles Morehouse, to tell MacArthur and Jean that Arthur's going to be sick if they don't get on a plane and go immediately. So they get on these DC-3s and they fly down to the middle of Australia to Alice Springs. And there they're going to wait for a train to come pick them up to take them to the south coast of Adelaide. The train shows up on the morning of March 18th, and they climb aboard. It's an old narrow gauge train, and the MacArthurs, they're there with a few of the staff. The rest of them had flown to Melbourne, and this is a train where you have to stop it to go from the living car back to the dining car to eat. So it's going to take about 2.5 days to get down to Adelaide. It's roughly about 1,070 miles or so, and roughly about 60 hours to get all the way down there. Now, it's on this train during this trip where MacArthur's going to make his famous I shall return statement. They get down to a place called Tarawi, which is about 180 miles from Adelaide on the morning of March 20th. And they have to stop there. They're going to switch the gauge so they can get onto the trains. It's going to haul them down to Adelaide. Or switch the gauge so they can get on the track to go down to Adelaide. And there, MacArthur makes the famous statement. And we know it's on the 20th because Adelaide newspaper prints the whole thing in the newspaper that morning just after MacArthur had landed or gone to Tarawi.
Is this MacArthur's I shall return message?
Yes, this was given to the archives by Fred German. He was the photo censor for MacArthur's headquarters from about 43 to 45. And he didn't remember where he got it, but it was a copy that was the statement that was then sent on to the Philippines. But it is the full statement where MacArthur says, I was ordered out of the Philippines for the purpose of getting a relief forces. I came through and I shall return. And so this is the statement that was made at that time.
Now, one question we tend to get from visitors is, was MacArthur supposed to make that promise?
Well, they were kind of irked because it was the I shall return to the Philippines. And it was almost making a strategical statement. And really the Allies in America had just gotten into the war. They had no idea where strategy was going. And MacArthur was almost making this promise that America was coming back to the Philippines. So that was what really kind of shook everybody up. The thing was the statement galvanized people in the United States. It was almost like this remember the Alamo type statement. And so even though they were upset about that, Pa Watson, who was President Roosevelt's press guy, said this statement is worth 5 corps of men, meaning it has enlivened, electrified so many people that almost 50,000 men will join the armed forces just because of this statement. So you see, MacArthur was the only force in the Philippines that was still really fighting. Everybody else was getting creamed. The Wake Island had fallen, Singapore had fallen, and the Philippines were still holding out. And MacArthur was this big force, really, back in the United States as far as public opinion. And so MacArthur becomes this very iconic image that they use for war bond drives to raise money. And so you'll see these type of images throughout America all during the war. We shall win or we shall die. I'll do my best. And MacArthur really becomes this propaganda tool, because it's, as the Roosevelt White House even said, MacArthur men are going to be influenced by this, by all these people who are just, they're galvanized by MacArthur. And so that's what this statement does. MacArthur really makes it for the Filipinos. They don't know America, they know him. I mean, he really was this force in pre-war Philippines just because of his father as well as his own name there. And so he makes it for that, but it just has this resounding effect throughout the Allied cause.